Welcome to NFL Goal Line with Phil Delgado and Nick Price. Thank you, as always, for making this part of your Monday night show. You went last unbeaten team in the NFL. Does that make them the best team? As the window Patriots.
Hello, guys, and welcome inside another presentation of the NFL Goal Line here on National Sports. We are here live on Spreaker.com. Yet another edition of NFL Goal Line. We had an action-packed Week 6 of football. This is Nick Rice alongside Phil Nunziata. We have a couple guests onto the show we are scheduled to have within the next hour, including the big Russell Baxter. He is one of those football gurus. He's a sports analyst for a local newspaper there over in the East Coast, and certainly we'll be really happy to have him throughout the hour. We're also looking to have a very interactive show. We hope to have Cameron Sadeghi perhaps on the line as well, or at least through the Twitter feed here on the NFL Goal Line. And also make sure to check out our Facebook page. We are live on NFL Goal Line with Nick and Phil. Call in number 951-515-4552. And we are here to recap Week 6 of the National Football League and get you going for exactly everything you need to know about the National Football League. Nick Rice, Phil Nunziata, let's start off with a big game over in Atlanta. Now, the Falcons had all they wanted to reckon with at home and come off with a nail-biting 23-20 victory. And certainly Matt Ryan and his crew rallied the troops as of late. And right now, the 6-0 Falcons are an extremely hot team. Nothing too much to make of this game because the Falcons are better than what they showed. Ryan was completely off, had 3 interceptions. That matched his season total coming into the game. And now this Falcons squad, I mean, the defense came alive. Asante Samuel with his first pick of the year. And what to make of the Falcons? So now they're 6-0, but they have struggled to get to that mark. And what to make of the Falcons with an easy schedule and with an absolutely favorable record to this point at 6-0, already with a 3-game lead over the rest of the NFC South. What to make, Phil, of the Falcons, and are they the best team in the NFC or even in the National Football League?
Well, I think this is one of the more surprising stories in the NFL. Nobody expected the Falcons to get off to this hot start, and I think the reason they're having this success comes down to the fact that you look at the way Matt Ryan played, having 3 interceptions, and they were able to find ways to win. The difference between a good team and a great team is you find ways to win even when you're not playing your best. And it's safe to say they kind of overlooked the Oakland Raiders, similar to what Pittsburgh did, which is why they stumbled and lost to them earlier in the year. Oakland has the ability to knock a team off when they're not fully prepared for them. And as you said, Asante Samuel coming up huge with his first interception as an Atlanta Falcon, making it count, taking it back 79 yards to the house to help preserve Atlanta's win. That was great to see. I've always been a big fan of Asante Samuel. And the question is definitely out there, are they the best team in the NFL? And, you look at the stats and you almost don't want to agree with it, but there's also no way to argue it right now. The Falcons sitting at top in records and many other ways.
And the Atlanta Falcons, a lesser-known fact, ranked towards the bottom of the league against the rush, on defense. They are 29th in the league in that category. And the defense, I mentioned last week, is not an elite defense like I see teams over there in the NFC, like the Green Bay Packers up until this past game, was reckoned as a team that can play solid defense. Of course, the Niners as well until the Giants came to town. But for right now, the Atlanta Falcons, as long as the defense gets things going and gets the turnovers that they've had the past few games, they can certainly make some hay for the first seed in the NFC. And there's a lot of teams in the NFL, Phil, and of course the NFC. But do you see the Atlanta Falcons being a team that's holding the first seed? It doesn't mean playoff success, but do they hold the first seed? I know it's early, but are they the top seed in the NFC?
I think it's very possible. Here's a team, a few years ago in the top seed in the NFC didn't exactly translate to playoff success, but you mentioned the easier, compared to other tough teams that are playoff teams, a easier schedule than them. So this is a team, they're beating the teams that they should beat. Some of them closer than they would like, but the way their schedule matches up, I could definitely see this being second seed at worst by the end of the year for this team.
And Matt Ryan, as long as he gets things going. Now, real quick, a lesser-known fact as well, Matt Ryan, ever since week 1, his passer rating has gotten progressively worse, from a 137 rating at the first week of the year, and this past Sunday he had a 57 overall quarterback rating. Now, the Oakland Raiders, their strength is on the defensive side, and certainly they got to the quarterback early and often, but as long as the Atlanta Falcons can protect Matt Ryan and can play solid defense, they'll be in the running for the top seed in the NFC. They're the only unbeaten team, but a team with 3 losses, and certainly not all of them that they would accept, they would take the loss. Certainly that Seattle game comes to mind. But for the Green Bay Packers, a dominant win against what used to be an undefeated team in the Houston Texans. What to make of the Packers in the NFC? And certainly, are they in the running? Even with 3 losses, are they still in the running for the first seed in the NFC?
Well, yeah, the Packers have had their share of struggles. Everyone knows about what happened with the Seattle game. And here's a team that came out and they made a statement. Obviously, you have to look at the big picture here. We've been posting it on our Facebook, about the loss of Brian Cushing to the Houston Texans and how big of a deal that would be. Our poll saying, how big of a blow was it? Huge, slight, significant, or little to none. Nobody put none, and almost 90% of the people voted that it was a huge blow to the Texans, and it definitely showed. You can't put all of that on Brian Cushing. The Texans definitely didn't bring their A game. But I think the Packers went out there and they made a statement to show that, yes, they've had struggles earlier in the year, but they are still an elite team, and I think Houston knows that, and they found out the hard way now.
And I don't want to put all the blame on the defensive side. Now, obviously, Brian Cushing will certainly be missed, and that linebacking core takes a hit, but they do have other guys on that linebacking squad, primarily Brooks Reed. I'm a big fan of him, and obviously J.J. Watt. He has 9.5 sacks so far for the Houston Texans. He's one of those players that is in the running for the MVP in the National Football League. But for the Green Bay Packers, they certainly ran into a Houston squad that is known for running the football, and under 3 yards a carry was not what anyone in America expected the Texans, to run on Sunday Night Football at home. But 6 touchdown passes for Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers put up 42 on the Texans. And obviously, Green Bay is in the running for the first seed. Their 3 losses might hinder them from that title, but they could be a hot team, and they're getting things going right now, Phil, as of late.
Yeah, here's a team going into, other than Detroit possibly, here's a team didn't even really feel challenged in their own division. Obviously, Minnesota is playing out of their mind right now, and the Bears and Lions are playing, so-so football, but it's coming to the point that the Packers aren't going to waltz through, and get 15 wins like they did last year. I think they're finally realizing, when you win a Super Bowl, you could probably ask any team that's done this, no matter how much appetite for success you have on that team, there's going to be some sense of being satisfied, and that's the worst thing that can happen. Is a team that's satisfied. Jumping sports here, look at the Dallas Mavericks after winning the NBA championship. The next year after that, you can, Dirk Nowitzki and such, they just said everybody was satisfied. They didn't have the drive to go out and compete and practice hard. And, now that Super Bowl ring isn't looking as shiny as it was, because it is 2 years ago now, and the NFL has always been a what have you done for me lately league. So you look at that, and the Packers are finally starting to get their drive back to us. We have to try again to get success in this league. It's not going to be handed to us from what we did years ago.
And now the Packers might have driven themselves out of the first seed, and that NFC North, as you mentioned, they're not even the top seed in that division, and they will have a run for their money over there in the NFC East. All 4 teams, you mentioned the Minnesota Vikings, are just playing lights-out ball right now. Of all the teams to be reckoning for a playoff spot, the Vikings are still there, just running down the division. The whole entire NFC North is having a run for their money, and the Chicago Bears are playing some pretty good football right now. And obviously that defense is coming to play. So for the Green Bay Packers, they may not have the drive for the Super Bowl, trophy. They're trying to get to the Lombardi, but right now, for the Green Bay Packers, sure, you have a dominant win against a great team, but drive for the playoffs is the first thing, partner. And right now at a 3-3 mark, things have to get going, and especially in the division. Now for the Green Bay Packers, the next few games, obviously more favorable than, the rest of the NFC North foes would like. A trip to St. Louis, followed by home against Jacksonville, and then the Cardinals come into town. Certainly the Packers are looking to rally up and have 3 to 4 games that they can win back-to-back to get back into the starting spot over there in the NFC North. Right now for the Packers, as long as they can get things going offensively, as you saw 42 put up against the Texans, they'll be a dominant team, Phil, and I certainly see them being an elite team down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team when they have something to prove, as they did. Aaron Rodgers went out there and tied the franchise record for most passing touchdowns in a game with 6, and it just shows to show you when this team has a goal, what they go through to reach it. And this is a good football team, Brian Cushing or not, in the Houston Texans, and I don't think anybody expected this game to be as lopsided as it was. It's one of those games that you really sit down and think you're going to see a barn burner here, and it was very one-sided, and it was very surprising to me, and I'm sure it was to you as well.
Absolutely. And the Green Bay Packers certainly put a run for their money over there against the Houston Texans. And just a real quick update over here in the Monday Nighter between the Chargers and the Broncos, Phil. I'm sure you can go in more on this, but the Broncos have more of a barn burner than they certainly would like. Certainly a score that's been one-sided. We're at halftime right now in San Diego. Phil, what do you have for us in the Monday Nighter?
Well, it's nothing but good news. Nothing else but good news for you right now, Nick. Is the Chargers lead 24-0. This comes as no surprise, as Denver has a total of 3 turnovers, 2 of them being special teams return errors, and the other was a pick 6 by Peyton Manning that seemed to happen in an audible miscommunication with a receiver where he was supposed to run a short curl and ends up running a streak, leaving nobody to catch the short pass thrown by Manning, which was brought back by Quentin Jammer, another corner who I'm a very big fan of. So it just seems that this Denver offense is not in sync, and much like earlier in the year against the Raiders, with the Chargers just taking advantage on the defensive side.
Rivers to Gates is also completed for 2 scores, and the Chargers lead at halftime 24-0. Certainly being a Charger fan, trying to get a 2-game lead in the division will certainly run for your case in the postseason. The Broncos are a hot team, but the Chargers cooling them down in Qualcomm. We'll be right back at 15 past the hour. Certainly a lot of topics to discuss, including the big one over in Baltimore. Breaking news that Ray Lewis, the all-star for the Ravens, 9-time Pro Bowler, he's out for the entire season. We'll have more updates on that and how will the Ravens play without him, including a look around the National Football League. Everything and more about the National Football League coming up next on the NFL Goal Line. We'll be back after a quick 30. This is Nick Rice and Phil Nunziata after this quick break. Welcome back to the NFL Goal Line. This is Nick Rice and Phil Nunziata here live for Spreaker.com on National Sports, and we certainly had a lot of big news on tap over in Baltimore. Now, Ray Lewis and this entire defensive squad used to be regarded for the past 5 to 10 years, the Baltimore Ravens regarded as a dominant defense. And for this year, and certainly in the past decade, one of the very first times we've really had an issue with the defensive side of the ball. But this defense does not seem as dominant as it has in years past. And the news did not get better when on Monday, Ray Lewis, he was sidelined with an injury that Phil will go more in-depth on, but he's out for the season, and that will certainly cause a big blow to this defense that's already out. Haloti Ngata with a big-time injury. Certainly this defense took a big-time hit. How will Ray Lewis be an impact off the field? Certainly he's that emotional leader that they won't have, but the Baltimore Ravens defense took a hit. How big of a hit was it, Phil, and will this cost the Ravens a big-time run in the playoffs?
Well, it was just the news that swept the nation really this morning as it came out that Ray Lewis has a torn bicep, and will be out for the entire year, which is obviously a huge, huge blow for this Ravens defense, who's been battling injuries